Hello, and welcome to the Quintessential Comics Book Club. I'm Alice Quinn, host of Quintessential Comics and this book club. Today we have a lot of really awesome guests, and I'm so excited for this conversation. Also, because there's 4 of us in this chat, just beware this one might be longer than some of our other ones, and you can comment about that in the comments or in the chat. If you'd like to, whatever, positive, negative, we always like to hear it here at Quintessential Comics. I'd like to introduce our guests. We have Allison O'Toole. You can wave. We got Megan Carter.
Hey!
Awesome. And we got Diana McCallum. Oh, yeah.
That's me.
Awesome. First off, thanks so much for joining us today. I can't wait to hear your opinions. So let's jump right into it. We're going to start with our graphic novel, Tune. So first thing I wanted to ask you guys... First thing I wanted to ask you guys is, Tune is also produced from a webcomic. Did you read it online, or did you read a physical copy? Let's start with Allison.
I had to read it online because I went to the library to pick it up and realized that I was at the wrong library. They did not have a copy, and so I read it online. True story.
That's cool. That's cool. We'll go over to Diana.
I read a physical copy. I went to the library, I write one, and they had lost it, even though they said it was in. And I went to a second library, and I got it. Library.
Awesome. Which branch did you get it from? Which?
I went to the one by where people skate.
No, it says it on your copy.
Ah, City Hall.
All right.
Yeah, big government.
Megan, did you read it online? Did you read a physical copy?
I read it online, so that's how I got my stuff, because I don't believe in supporting creators or libraries. I don't leave my home. This is the story.
We're not going to assume that, but since you said it, I guess that's what we're gonna have to do now.
that's how I advertise myself.
So I had some really particular feelings about this one, but I'm gonna let you guys start. Who wants to start?
I'll start. Did anyone else feel like the main character was kind of a dickhole?
So unlikable, right?
Right?
Incredibly.
I don't know if that was on purpose, like we're supposed to realize this guy is kind of a jerk, or if I'm supposed to empathize with this character. Because I think I was supposed to empathize with him, and I don't.
I didn't care for him at all.
The way that the story with Yumi was framed seemed like you're supposed to like him, but yeah, he was a dickhole, to borrow your term.
He wasn't great, and I was actually disappointed Yumi ended up liking him, because I was like, no, Yumi, you're better than this. Yumi seemed great, and I was like, damn it, she actually does like him? I don't see it. Come on, Yumi.
Well, even Yumi kind of she stinks of Manic Pixie Dream Girl.
Yes.
Where and so she's cute haircut and alternative clothes and super spunky, and she's the perfect girl who's gonna save my life.
Yeah. I'm gonna take off the thirds. I'm actually really glad you guys brought that up, because I wasn't going to. I was just what really bothered me about this was the fact that here I'll bring up a page. Because it's a webcomic, they have, for the print edition, it's just a bunch of these panels on a page, and the page background is this sort of starry galaxy thing, and at first I was like, oh, this is because this is the sort of grand opening, and the panels are laid out like this for a reason. And then the entire book is like that, and I was like, why? That's a lot of ink for negative space, and that's a really poor use of negative space. And that bothered me more than the characters did, because
oh wow, really? That
for
didn't
me,
bug me as
really
much.
bothered me. So.
The other thing that really got me is like I wasn't bothered by the panel layout with the story background like you said, Alice, as much as this format of like comics, but also a lot of prose, like a lot of writing and having to read like a lot of like paragraphs of writing to read along with these panels, and it's like I like prose, I like books, and I like comics, but I don't get them together. I'm not big on that kind of format, and so like I was. You have to go through these paragraphs just to get to this one panel, and I got frustrated and impatient where I was skipping over like full paragraphs just to get to the actual comic panel.
Oh, the book doesn't have any paragraphs.
yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Really? On Allison, back me up here on the webcomic?
Well, it was very, I wouldn't say paragraphs, but it was very wordy for a comic. Like, it was, I found that too. And I found it strange, like, my thing, reading it online, I guess, like, you're not thinking about ink and that kind of thing, but I can see how reading it weekly, you might be like, oh, this week it's one panel.
Yeah,
Cool.
that's not good
But
for,
that,
like...
to me, would be more frustrating than the amount of text. Like, it was wordy. I don't know if I would go as far to say that it was too wordy, I guess, but I also like purple prose sometimes. So that it wasn't something especially stuck out to me, but I liked the starry background because it was about space, eventually.
I also didn't find, I liked the starry background too. I didn't find it had a lot of prose because I read the book, but it took a really long time. The end of book 1, he's not even at the zoo yet.
Yeah.
Way too long.
So, like, did anyone else feel, so, like, yes, so it seems like collectively we hated the main character. Did anyone else get the feel like the author might be a jerk?
Well, here's the thing, and, like, I don't like calling people out like that because sometimes, like, the creators do watch the show. But in the spirit of being honest and constructive criticism, I have a feeling that the author doesn't realize that the main character is portrayed as a jerk because he's put himself as the main character, and this is his story because he's an illustrator and he probably went to art school, he probably had a girl he had a crush on, he was too nervous to say anything. This is probably one of those things that's loosely based around his life. But yeah, just to go back to what Allison said about it being, or Diana said about being really short and weird, because yeah, at the end of the first book, he doesn't even get there, and it's like, why would you start us off? Like, I don't mind if they start us off near the end, as long as they like finish it. This one didn't even have an ending. It was like,
No,
why?
they finished.
Well, it's
They
a cliffhanger,
finished. He's still
isn't
out
it?
at the zoo.
It's a cliffhanger, though, right?
Not really. I mean, we already saw the beginning. I'm more interested in what the zoo's about than actually getting there.
Okay, so I'm glad you said that because, so Alice and me, we read the webcomic, and so the webcomic goes further on from book 1, and so now that I've read further from that, book 1, I was like, this character is kind of a jerk. I don't know if I can do this, but book 2, it becomes less about the main character and more about his situation and his circumstances, and I get more into it, and I actually relate a bit more to him.
That sounds way more interesting.
Yeah, I would definitely suggest, like, if you weren't too big on book 1, try book 2 and see if you come back around.
Okay.
I really liked the other alien, who I guess was barely in book 1, but those aliens were great. I found one thing I noticed that doesn't really go away is a lot of the, I want to say it's an attempt at satire, but it's very kind of blunt. A lot of the like industry commentary, and then like there's that kind of stuff. I was like, could we maybe dial it back a little bit and have something a little bit more creative to say? Because it just seemed very like,
yeah. Okay. So
aggressive.
The reason I was critical of the author was not even because of the main character. I didn't link those two together. It was like specifically there were a couple red flags. So one was that scene where all the art majors are at that bar and it has that table of the fashion majors and they're all super vapid and like super rude and mean and they're all just like the popular girls and it's like, okay, that's a rude generalization to make about fashion majors who work just as hard as illustrators. So that was red flag number 1.
But those characters weren't rude. The boys just looked at them as unattainable. We never actually heard them say anything.
Yeah, we did. We heard the girl
Did
say
they
something
come?
where they.
Oh,
Yeah,
maybe in
they
your version they did.
maybe.
They did in the book.
Yeah, they look at the boys and they're like, oh, nerf herders, oh, turn away, oh, super, and they're just like
Oh,
really
they did.
obnoxious.
Sorry. Yeah, they did.
Yeah, and so that was the first one, and the second one was
And
Allison was saying the editor at the comic publisher, where it just comes off with this air like this editor doesn't know what he's talking about. The artist clearly knows better, and I was like, I don't know, like, if I met this main character, because there are a lot of artists who do think that, or like, these editors don't know what they're talking about. They have never taken art in their lives, and it's like, I've met guys like that, and they are the worst. And if the author is, like, also confirming this to be true, I was like, I don't know if I'd be friends with this person, even.
Yeah, another thing I wanted to point out along that is there's a lot of this perpetuating stereotypes. Oh, no, I brought up the wrong one. Whoops. Hold on. I'll bring up a new one.
Okay.
There's a lot of this like perpetuating stereotypes about art majors, about the industry, and then he has his Korean mom and this whole like Agu thing, which I was like so not interested in.
Well, see, like
I actually thought the mom and dad were kind of cool. Not cool, but like I found them the most entertaining part.
I was okay with it only because the writer is also Korean. I was like, okay.
I agree completely. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I really liked how his dad is just behind a newspaper.
Yeah. Let's talk about the art style. So let's get off the writing. Let's talk about the art style because it's so endearing and it's so adorable. I love this art.
I love it too. I thought it's like I think it's really good. I like the cartoony style. I like how he anthropomorphed, like not Rachel. I'm recording.
Rachel.
You guys have met my sister, right?
I've met your sister.
I think I have now.
Hi, Rachel.
Yeah, so like he the way he like goes over the top with his characters, and like when he finds out Yumi loves him, and there's like hearts everywhere, and he's like ah, like I like that, but a big part of what hindered this art for me was these crazy big pages with negative space.
Okay.
It really bothered me because in like. I don't want to be all academic about comics, but
panel do it. Let's get snobby. Let's get snooty.
Panel layout's really important, and when you have a page that's the background is like a galaxy, and you have panels in a very specific way, that's saying something about the content. So in the first chapter, I really understood it, and I really liked it because I was like, yes, you know, this is in space, this is in a different world. But then when it flashes back to the past, which is where most of the book takes place, that background doesn't drop. And then it's like, no, there isn't any meaning in this background. He didn't make any consistent panel sizes, and so this is how they're choosing to make the book. And it really bothered me because it's like, oh, well, if you only have that much space, why didn't you make the book smaller? Or if you wanted to make your webcomic into a book eventually, why didn't you choose like consistent panels, or at least have a layout for your pages in mind and be like, all right, I'll do 3 or 4 smaller panels and then a long panel.
Well, is it possible though that like they set out at the beginning without the plan to put it in print? Because I'm thinking about like a lot of webcomics will use that. You know, there's the concept of the infinite canvas and all that, where you'll have the the page designed to be read online and to be read in this sort of like 3 times a week for this one.
Yeah,
content.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
So it's possible. Like in this case, I'd give them the benefit of the doubt and think that maybe they intended it originally just to publish online, and that maybe it doesn't translate as well. Like I'm thinking about like Emily Carroll's book last year. You know, she put his face all red into the book too, and it's not as effective on the page, but she created it to be read online. You know, so in this case, I'd kind of give them the benefit of the doubt, thinking that this is something that a format that they thought would work when they were updating 3 times a week. Because especially if you're spacing panels out like that, like it's less, I guess, grueling for the artist rather than having to do like 3 full comic book pages a week.
Right.
I don't know.
And even like I know there are pages like you were saying that's like just a single panel, and on an update schedule where it's like every other day there's a new page and you just get that one panel. It is probably specifically designed. It's like this panel is like a big deal. This is a big impact. So that's why this whole page gets this one panel. And you know, on the web, it's okay to do it like that. You know, in a print comic, you would just do a splash page. And so I am with Allison on this one, where like I get that he probably specifically designed this for the web and said, yeah, there we go. Diana's got the right idea.
Thanks, Diana.
And Alice is doing the same. Look at these.
Yeah. So like
Showing
I
us up.
brought this this page on screen. Yeah, and it just seems like I understand that they're making a flow with the panels, but it's got less of an impact when it's every page.
Right.
I honestly didn't actually notice. Now that you've said it, it's really bothering me.
You ruined it, Alice.
As I was reading it, I didn't mind the starry background. I didn't mind the panel layouts at all. I think I even liked the stars, because I'm like, yeah, Earth is in space.
No, the art I genuinely enjoy.
But now that I think about how much ink that wasted, it does bother me. Ink is expensive.
Yeah.
What could
Well,
have
that's on the publisher. Like, they can worry about that. First Second can pay out the nose for printing.
Yeah. Well, I just found it distracting because, like, especially when I read a comic for a book club, all of these things I take into consideration.
Absolutely, right? That's totally fair.
But I mean, overall, it wasn't bad. I enjoyed it. I felt it was a little short, and I know there's a second volume out. So maybe I don't know.
Yeah, I genuinely. It's too long till it gets to the point.
I kind of like that it was this
pages about him watching TV at home.
Well, I kind of liked this idea because the one thing I really liked was that so it's this big sci-fi adventure, but in this first book, like in the beginning, we get this hint like, oh, it's in space, it's sci-fi, and actually the first book is just this slice of life comic, and then at the end it's like, nope, bam, space. And so I get the idea that this first book is establishing his life and kind of what he is leaving behind. And then the second book is like where it gets into it. Is this laundry I hear? Oh.
Yep, roommate's having a shower. Sorry about that, guys.
No, I like it.
Hopefully it's not too. Can you still like hear me and everything?
Yeah. I can't hear it anymore.
It was just for a second.
All right, cool. Sorry about that.
Did anyone else find the tone kind of off the whole time? Because, like, at first it feels like it's for, like, teenagers, but then there'll be, like, sex and swear, like, and stuff, and I could never get a quite feel for the tone that they were going for.
Well, First Second, I think, usually advertises their books for, like, probably 15 to 24-year-olds. And the style, especially, like you mentioned, it seems like it'd be for kids almost. It's really cartoony. But, yeah, you're right, the tone is very adult.
Yeah, when they get into, like, the sex stuff, and then there's, like, you know, urination, but grosser.
Well, it also seems like the character and everything in that, like, life period is also kind of aimed at, like, 20-somethings,
for sure.
Right?
Yeah. The tone was weird, but it didn't bother me. Like, until you brought it up, I didn't notice. I liked how it had that slice of life. I liked how it introduced us to the character before the change. I would have really liked to have seen more of what happens after he gets into this other dimension in the first book. I just felt like you could have done that in less pages, or if you put more panels on each of the page, you could have gotten to this book.
Just keep bringing it back. Just keep hammering it home.
Yeah, no, but that's fair in terms of, like, when they decided to publish it, when they decided the number of pages that it would have, right? Like, I'm definitely with you there. Like, they could have seen it, or maybe they could have found a way to compress it or to repackage it in a different way that would read better.
I would have liked to see that, where, like, you see a digital comic arranged in a certain way, and then once it's in print, it's actually designed in a completely different way, specifically for print. I would like to see that done. I'm sure people have done it, but I guess through the Woods, is that Emily Carroll's book?
Yeah,
That would be an example where originally it was just a long vertical comic, and then suddenly it's arranged for print specifically.
Yeah, because she would have had to figure that out. And you'll also see webcomics, I'm thinking about, like, the volumes of Dr. McNinja that I have.
Right.
Where they'll put, like, the alt text at the bottom and stuff like that, right? Like, you find a way to transfer between mediums, or media, I guess, in a way that makes it more accessible in this, like, new form. So maybe they didn't excel at that. Maybe First Second could have been a bit more involved in reformatting the whole adventure.
Right.
But then again, like, that's so much work, so who's to say?
Well, I will say I didn't know it was a webcomic when I was reading it. Now that I know, though, I think like it can probably be hard if you're doing 3 panels a week to figure out like how long it is and what the arc's like. Like, I bet if you're doing 3 panels a week, you can't tell that it's dragging because every week it doesn't feel like it is. But like you're not doing it as a whole, like you're writing a book in one big chunk. So I can actually see how it happened now that I know it's a webcomic first.
One thing I want to share, we got a chat going on here in our chat. Keith F.
Hey, Keith F.
What
can be he.
Yeah, he totally agrees with us that it's like sort of that 20-something, very college age, and can be he. Just says, hey, what up, in a smiley face. So I'm just gonna shouting out to them. Hey guys, thanks for joining us in the chat.
Hey, babes.
Yeah, sometimes it felt college age, but then like when it opened up, I actually thought he was like a middle schooler because of the artwork and because he was wearing a tie like a kid in a uniform school.
Yeah, I totally
I
get
did too.
It actually took me a while to realize he was in university, and even when he right out said it, I'm like, is this like a child prodigy who got to university early?
Yeah.
So I because like it didn't feel like college at first. It was a weird mix. The tone never quite landed for me throughout the entire thing. I'm actually interested in book 2 now that you say they actually get to the zoo and stuff.
Yeah, no, I would definitely, in general, like I would recommend this book, but I would also recommend like read it whole through. Don't just like, because like when I read the first 10 chapters, I was like, I don't know if I can do this. But as I progressed, I was like, yeah, okay, now I see what's happening, and I'm interested to like keep going.
The other aliens make it worth it. They
do, and so does Yumi. Actually, Yumi makes it really worth it.
I do like Yumi. I like. Oh, yeah. Does she back suit?
I like her more in the second book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I even liked Yumi in the first one. I thought she was fun.
What was your reaction when Buttlord McGee reads her diary?
Oh, Buttlord McGee.
Yeah, I blanked on his name.
Rage. That's my response.
I was like, wow, you're just a complete jerk.
I don't know, personally, it's like, it's one of those things, it's like, it's like, if you have a chocolate bar sitting on your desk, and you're like, oh, I'll eat that later, I'll eat it for dessert after I'm finished. Can you wait? Can you really? I have no self-control. So
okay, but is that someone else's chocolate bar?
Yeah.
Someone else's chocolate bar that they've saved for, like, months?
That, like, it was really important to them, and in a way,
from, like, a grandmother in Holland.
A chocolate bar is not a good example, because, like, a chocolate bar will be gone. The journal is still there. A chocolate bar is not.
But, like, this also doesn't exist in a vacuum. This just, like, compounds his also other jerk qualities, where it's like, oh, this is the one that digs the grave.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm really honest. I might read a journal. I'm honest enough to myself to be like, I'd skim it for my name. I wouldn't read every line like he did, but I'd be like, they talk about me? I do that about myself.
I think I'm really good at feeling guilty is what I am.
Yeah, me too. I would put it away.
Well, here's what happened. I wouldn't be able to resist the temptation of opening it, but I would like skim through it a little bit, and then I'd feel really bad, and then I would put it down. If we're being 100% honest.
I think this show has proven who has a conscience and who doesn't, Allison.
Don't trust me with your journals, guys.
Yeah, apparently.
Or just don't write about me, and I won't read it.
Yeah.
If my name's not in there, I won't even look.
Yeah.
I'm a really bad example for this because, like, I put everything I think about on the internet. It actually got to a bad point one time where like I would go and like talk to my friends in real life and be like, oh, this is what I'm up to, and they'd be like, yeah, I know, it's on your Facebook.
Shut up.
I stopped
Yeah,
posting everything I do.
Yeah, it's like, Yumi, why do you have a journal? Just get a Twitter. What are you even doing?
Yeah. Have you heard of LiveJournal?
Who has physical media anymore?
Yeah. That's just manic pixie dream girl. She has a diary in her sketchbook. She's so spunky.
All right, so I want to wrap up our discussion on Toon Vanishing Point. I think I would have really enjoyed this a lot better had it been packaged with the second volume, because I feel like this isn't a complete story. I feel like 10 chapters is an introduction, but there's definitely more to the story, and I would have enjoyed it if it was a thicker, but also more substantial and had more of the story. But overall, it wasn't awful. I just had a lot of criticisms about it.
Is this like the first quintessential book club where you've had a contrary opinion to the book you've presented?
No, I don't know if you saw the one I did for the first one with Snow, but
no.
Snow, like, there was just a lot of hype, and they made a short film about it, and they made a little video game, and it was good, but it wasn't like amazing, and I was like,
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the first one I felt really open and free to like be critical, because you guys just provide that aura for me, so thank you.
We just bring that out of you. Yeah. Diane, do you need to leave?
Actually, yeah, my dog's here now.
Oh, nice one.
Yeah. But,
so
yeah, I can't. But I do want to say Ghost Racers is way more fun than this book was.
Diana, if you want, you could try to jump back in after if you want.
I will. You guys have fun, though. I gotta go. Sorry.
Bye, Diane.
Allison, what did you think about this one?
It was okay. To be honest, for me, just kind of unspectacular. It's just not a protagonist I'm engaged in. It's not a plot line I'm engaged in. Like, I like the aliens, but they're not really enough to keep me back. But I can also admit that it's not all the fault of the comic. It's just not the kind of story. Anything that's this based on this sort of one character pining after another one just isn't really for me, because it forms so much of the basis.
I thought Alice was asking you about Ghost Racers, and you were like, it just didn't do it for me. I was like, I think Alice.
And you were gonna murder me?
Yeah. I was like, I don't
No. I feel much more positive. I thought are we still wrapping up? I assume this was.
We're still wrapping up too. We're gonna talk about
I wasn't sure.
Megan or Allison, are you done?
Yeah.
Megan, why don't you wrap up what you thought about Toon, and then I'll have you start off Ghost Racers. How's that?
Okay, so the artist did a great job. I love the art in this book. It's super endearing. I love the simple style. It's like a mix between anime and also like North American cartoons, and so I love that style. I really do. The writing in the first book kind of grates on me, only because I'm not sure if I'm supposed to empathize with this main character or not, because I kind of found him to be a jerk, but as it got into the second volume, I really liked it. So I would recommend definitely check this book out and stick through to the second volume to like reserve your judgments until then. So that's what I would say.
Cool. So the second book we read in our book club this month is Ghost Racers. Woo, 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 woo. Just kidding. Yeah, so on our Quintessential Comics Book Club, it's not just about me and what I want to read. We have polls up in our Facebook events for each month, and I strongly ask and recommend you guys recommend us books you want to read, and then we could read your books in our next book club. Last month, Megan recommended that we read Ghost Racers up here. Woo woo! So we did, because I'm super cool like that in accepting other people's ideas.
This seems like a really roundabout way of saying that Megan harassed me until we talked about Ghost Racers, which is literally what happened. But also recommend books for Alice, because she's a hardworking girl and she wants to talk to you about comics.
Yeah. All right, so Megan, why don't you start us off?
Okay, kids. So I'm ready to go. I just had a nice coffee. My Wi-Fi is great. So let me tell you about Ghost Racers. Before we get into that, let me tell you about Ghost Rider. If you don't know what that is, Ghost Rider is not just one guy. Ghost Rider. Yeah, I see you, Allison. I see you shaking with laughter.
You're just so excited. It's so
I'm so excited. Okay, so Ghost Rider is not this one guy. It's like this mantle. It's a legacy character, and so there's a bunch of actual Ghost Riders. It started in the 70s with Johnny Blaze, who was the child of like carnies, and his adoptive parents were motorcycle stuntsmen, and his dad was he got cancer, and it was super bad news bears. And Johnny Blaze was so broken up about it. And he's like, "Oh, I want to save my dad from cancer." And like, I think Allison will especially be familiar with this, but you guys know how like super old comics, like pre-80s, the storytelling was really compact, where like instead of like page flow, you had these panels where it was like a different scene each panel, and then a bunch of word boxes explaining what's happening. And so you have to imagine the 70s comic, Ghost Rider, where Johnny Blaze is like, "Oh no, my dad has cancer and I want to save him. I'll sell my soul to the devil." And you're like, and as a reader, you're just like, Johnny Blaze, wait, hold on. And then the next panel, without missing a beat, his shirt is off. There's a pentagram painted on his chest in red, and he's surrounded by candles, and he's like, "I'm selling my soul to the devil now." And the devil shows up. He's like, "Okay, how can I help you?" And Johnny's like, "Save my dad from cancer." He's like, "Okay, I'll save your dad from cancer. Deal." And then the next day, so his dad doesn't know he's been saved from cancer, and he's like, "Well, I'm going to die, so I'm going to do this super 22-card jump with my motorcycle." And then he dies from that jump. And Johnny Blaze is like, "But the devil, you said that you'd save my dad." It's like, "No, sweetie, you said save him from cancer. I can't stop your dad from doing stupid stuff." And he's like, "Oh, the devil is the worst." And then he becomes Ghost Rider. And so that's the story of Johnny Blaze. So that happens in the 70s. And then it doesn't come back again until the 90s, where you have Danny Ketch. And Danny Ketch is out late one night with his sister in this super bad end of town with some friends, and then they get caught up in this gang turf war, which was between what was it, ninjas and vampires. So yeah, as it happens in New York in Marvel, and so his sister gets super fucked up. And he's like, "Oh no, my sister!" And it's like, "Oh, what's this sweet motorcycle?" And then he becomes Ghost Rider. So those are the two I've read, and so I went on Wikipedia and I looked up the other two. There's Alejandra, who her parents were human traffickers, and she got sold to this guy named Adam, and she actually got trained to inherit the mantle of Ghost Rider, and so she's super badass. And then the last one is Carter Slade, who I looked up, is not an actual Ghost Rider. Like, he was up in the 50s, where he was like known as the Phantom Rider, or he was originally known as a Ghost Rider, but Marvel changed the name because they wanted it for the new, cooler character. And so he's been a Phantom Rider, he's been the Knight Rider, but he wasn't an actual Ghost Rider, like with the spirit of vengeance. He was a guy on a horse pretending to be a ghost.
Just gonna interrupt you for a second. We got some comments in our chat. Lucian's Way Fox is wondering if you're just telling us about the first movie is like the comics then.
I haven't seen that garbage, so no.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, so Carter Slade, he's not an actual Ghost Rider, like, from continuity. But Ghost Racers was like, "No, you get to be a Ghost Rider too." And he's like, "Oh, thanks." He's like, "But you have to be a zombie centaur." He's like, "Excuse me?" He's like, "Yeah, you're a zombie centaur now." And then, so Ghost Race, and then we have, sorry, let me get back, Ghost Rider, all new Ghost Rider.
Can I?
Yeah, please,
So,
go.
because we read Ghost Racers, and it's just sort of, I guess, a spin-off of the current or newer Ghost Rider, I read all 12 issues. It was canceled, unfortunately, but it's all done by Felipe Smith. Um,
Well, he was the writer, and then the last 2 issues he did the art and writing duties.
oh, okay, cool. And it centers around this kid, Roberto Reyes. We just call him Robbie Reyes, and he's like typical underclass, ethnic teenager whose parents abandoned them or died. It's later revealed that they died, right?
Yes.
And his little brother has like a developmental disability, so he doesn't have like full mobility, and he needs lots of like medication and attention and like physio and therapies and stuff. But like Robbie's so sweet, and he's like, I'll work extra he works as a mechanic. So he's like, I'll work extra shifts at the shop, and he still goes to school, and then every spare minute he spends with his little brother, and it's like so sweet, and it just warms your heart. And then like the bullies at school like beat up his little brother and steal his wheelchair, and then Robbie tries to like stand up for them, but like he's just a kid, and like, you know, these 3 guys are like not gonna let him do anything. And so he just like, you know, takes his brother home, like gives him like a piggyback ride because he doesn't have like a wheelchair anymore. And he's like, don't worry, you're my hero, Robbie. And you're like, oh, game. Yeah, like Megan says, all that. And then so basically afterwards he gets killed because he needs to become the Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider.
Pretty much. So he gets killed, but this spirit like comes to his body and rises him from the dead. In this one, it doesn't actually say whether like he didn't like physically talk to the devil, or he didn't do anything where he was like, oh, I'm gonna sell my soul. This sort of spirit invades his body and gets him back up and does this whole Ghost Rider stuff. And he's like, I'm not gonna be a vigilante. I'm not gonna use my powers for evil. I'm just gonna use my powers to win street races so I can have more money for my brother, and that way I don't have to work as hard as much at the shop, and I can spend more time with my brother. And I'm like, and then of course, like, you know, a female or a ethnic character in a major, you know, Marvel or DC canon, he does not get renewed after 12 issues because
Wolverine isn't in this book.
Yeah. I don't know if it was like, so when the title started, Trad Moore was on art duties, and like Trad Moore has seen, he's seen me on 2 social media call him my art crush. Like it's beautiful, beautiful line work. But then after the 5th issue, he leaves, and I'll never forgive him for that. Yeah. And another artist takes over for him. Maybe I shouldn't name names, but like Trad Moore in general is a hard act to follow on art duties, and this guy unfortunately is just not nearly as refined. And I don't know why artists are chosen for books or why not, but I do have a feeling that Marvel is probably hard up for artists that are comfortable drawing cars. And this guy draws a mean car and a mean motorcycle, but his people just like it's not measuring up. And so I have a feeling that might be why the book kind of like fell in sales.
The other thing is, like, with Secret Wars, they're collapsing all of these, like, alternate pocket universes is how they're describing it now.
Is that Secret Wars or Convergence?
No.
No, Secret Wars. So Convergence is DC.
Yeah, so, and Secret Wars is also going to tie in with the Marvel movie, but I thought Marvel already collapsed their Alternates universe last year with like this whole Ultimates thing. Do you guys remember that?
Well, that was just Ultimates, though. This is like the Crisis on Infinite Earths that DC did. Like now they're collapsing Ultimates into 616, which is kind of what they did before, as I understand it. But now I think it's going to be like we're bringing like the Spider-Gwen universe is going to be 616 and Ultimates and like 2099 or whatever the hell else we have. We're going to put them all in one universe.
Yeah, I literally could not care less about like the big publisher events.
No, I know. But that's what's happening.
No, I know. I thank you for explaining it to me.
Yeah, I feel really similar to Megan with that raspberry right there. But yeah, so this is where we get Ghost Racers. It's on what's called a battle world. Boom, battle world. And so basically, the comic itself is they get all the Ghost Riders together and then they do races together. And it looks super crazy, and the race sequence in this book, like, makes it for me. Like, guys, I'm just gonna bring up some pages for you because, like, look at this, guys.
Let's see. Yeah, the art duty is Gedeon, if I'm pronouncing that right. And I really like that this style, like this simplistic kind of, this simple rendered style is becoming more popular at Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
I think it started with like David Aja on Hawkeye. Cause I'm with you guys. Like this art style, I love it. I love it. The race again, it's super intense, and the way they do everything is top notch.
So this is this sort of ghost senator.
Oh, good.
Ghost racer thing that you explained.
I love the page at the very end too, where he talks about the design of Slade, and he's like, yeah, it's Centaur, but then also he's gonna have these big guns, and I thought it would be cool to give him a face mask and stuff. And I was like, yay!
No joke. When I first saw the like promo image of this cover, and I saw Carter Slade, the Centaur, I was like, is this a mistake? Like, did the artist just forget to draw the rest of the horse? Because no way this is just a Ghost Rider Centaur. No way they would do that. But then Felipe Smith, who, like, God bless him, he has made himself very accessible on social media. Like, I was like, is this real? And he's like, yeah, that's totally real. That is a Centaur Ghost Rider. I was like, this book is the best! And I haven't even read it.
Yeah, so I got it up on my screen, but yeah, that's him right there, the Centaur Ghost Racer. Boom.
Boom.
Yeah.
Boom.
It's also worth saying, yeah, like I said before, Carter Slade was not a Centaur before this book.
Well, universes colliding.
Yeah.
Happen.
Felipe Smith is just like, why not, though?
Vehicle.
Yeah, for sure. No, I love it. I don't know if I would actually recommend this book to someone who isn't familiar with Ghost Rider, because I feel like you would only be interested in this book if you're already a fan of Ghost Rider. I've shoved Ghost Rider onto both of you.
I don't have that much familiarity with the character, though. Like, predominantly, what I've read was just, like, random stuff from the 70s. I've read a bit of Johnny Blaze.
Right.
Just because I really like Marvel horror in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think I've read all that much, like, actual Ghost Rider before. And so I would actually say that it sets up its world pretty easily. Like, if you haven't read the most recent Ghost Rider run, I think you might be a bit confused. But you don't need to know that much. Yeah, but even then, like, it for the rest of them, like, they don't have character really. You don't really need to know anything about them. So I'd say it's actually pretty accessible as far as mainstream comics go to set this world up for a new reader, so you can sort of figure out what's going on. Because it's just like a really kinetic race sequence. So I mean, if you just want to read something that's like really fast paced and really fun. I think I would recommend it to anyone, even if you hadn't necessarily read a bunch of Ghost Rider before.
Okay, that makes me happy. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I also wasn't sure because in preparation for this and because Megan had so strongly recommended it, I went back and I read those 12 issues from the recent Ghost Rider, and I really enjoyed it. And especially this opening scene where they're starting the race, and they got everybody's like cheering on Reyes, Reyes. And I'm like, that's me and Megan in the stands right there. I'm like, ah!
I would literally read this book for this alone. Let's see, this dog. Go catch him. Like that alone will just sell me on this book. But like it also throws in, so like I said, I was on Wikipedia kind of researching the other Ghost Riders in preparation, and it throws in this like one offline how Danny Ketch and Johnny Blaze are fighting each other like bad siblings, And on Wikipedia, I had read that it's like, oh yeah, Johnny Blaze, his mother and father, they left him at a young age with his siblings, Barbara and Danny, and Johnny Blaze just never remembered. He totally forgot, and it's like that smells of a retcon. And I was like, oh, okay, they're siblings now, I guess.
Nice.
But yeah,
Okay.
so there's these little in-jokes in here, like them being siblings that just like someone might not get unless they were familiar with that.
So I had no idea, and I thought it was funny. I assumed it was just a joke because they were the two like old original ones.
Right.
Because I knew enough about it to know that like Slade was a different thing. Like I knew he was Phantom Rider, and I knew Alejandra was also kind of separate. I don't really know her deal. And obviously Robbie is most recent, so I just assumed it was more because of their like temporal link. So I thought that was funny, but it's funnier now that you tell me this, and it's an Easter egg.
Yeah.
But, I confess that this is a gap in my Marvel reading. I don't know too much about Ghost Rider. I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah, me too. I also missed that joke, but like I found it funny just because it was funny in
Well, that's
context.
good.
But it's nice when those things have layers, and you're like, I know, because they
Yeah.
have one issue, and then they,
I get this reference.
Excuse me.
No, and so like the big reason I wanted this book on this show is because I feel like the all-new Ghost Rider with Robbie Reyes, written by Felipe Smith, and the art done by 3 different people, just like did not get enough attention, and that's why it got canned. And so that's why I really want to pimp Ghost Races. Like I really want this book to succeed and Felipe Smith to get more work at Marvel, especially writing Ghost Rider stories.
Do we know how many issues it's going to have, this one?
It's a miniseries, right?
Yeah, well, everything that's debuting as part of Battle World is a miniseries because it's all going to end when the whole Secret Wars thing ends. I just don't know how many. Does anyone know how many issues it is?
I have no idea.
I don't know either. I think it's
Some
either 4
issues.
or 6.
Does someone in the chat know?
Does somebody in the
Does
chat?
someone in the chat have access to Google, maybe?
Yeah. This is where you guys participate.
Funny because
We should do this. Let's have
Oh my god,
trivia.
guys! Thank you for reminding me because I have not been paying attention to the top. The chat. I'm just gonna screen share.
They're all just like, shut up, Megan.
We don't care about Ghost Rider, Megan. All the comments.
They're very specifically Ghost Rider centric.
Good.
All right.
Oh, hold on.
We'll
I'm
address
bringing
them
it up.
now.
Bringing it up.
Do it live!
Boom.
Boom.
So the way that Johnny Blaze became Ghost Rider is the same way in the movie. The movies suck. Thank you, Lucian. We all have opinions on who the best comic book artist is, and we're not going to argue about that today. But yeah, I would also agree. It looks like the Ghost of Death from East of West. East of
Yes,
West
it
is a
does.
pretty good series. If you guys haven't read it yet, it's pretty good.
No.
All right, I'm gonna stop screen sharing this because there's actually more comments.
Okay.
And we've addressed that the Gatling gun ghost has been seen as not a centaur.
Yeah.
Prior to now.
This
Thank you
is
for your
new.
question.
This is a new development.
Yeah, but like I don't know. Overall, I thought this was interesting. It got me interested in some of the other Ghost Rider characters because Alessandro, like I was like I haven't heard of this one, like because some of the other ones I've heard of, and they had this crossover with Johnny Blaze in the all new Ghost Rider. But yeah, I agree with Megan. This didn't get enough attention during when the run was going on. I thought the art was like truly exceptional, especially in those first couple issues. But it also is like the colors and the style isn't that mainstream Marvel stuff, so some people aren't like super interested, and those people need to open up their minds.
They need to smarten the hell up.
No,
Can I
I thought it was really good, and it fits the content of the comics. I feel like the art style and the art has to fit what's going on in these characters and has to speak to that. And I felt like especially the color work in the Ghost Rider issues were really well done. And then in this issue, it was very much toned down, but I liked it. I still really agreed with it.
Yeah.
Allison, you were gonna say something?
Well, first question on the colors. Yeah, I thought the color work, and there's a lot of really good like texture work in this one. It's Tamra. I don't want to say her name wrong.
Bonvillain?
Yeah, Bonvillain maybe.
Yeah,
or
Bonvillain.
But yeah, some really fantastic. Like most of it's very flat, but then you get these odd moments of like really nice texturing and shadowing and stuff that I thought was really good. But who did the coloring for Ghost Rider?
Val
You seem to have a bunch of
Staples.
copies.
Oh,
Staples. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was gonna pose a question. Does anyone else think it's
before you do?
all right? Do we have comments?
We have more comments, guys.
Okay, let's do it.
Really active audience today.
Is it more Lucian?
But yeah, it's gonna be 4 issues.
Okay.
Thanks.
Oh, dang, really? That's it?
Aww.
I want more.
Oh, thanks, Keith.
What do you guys know what this one's referring to?
What is that book series that the ghost... Oh, I can't see now.
Oh, sorry.
When you read out loud, you can't see it.
Okay. Alice, speak up.
Hey.
There.
Hey, guys. What's the book series that the Ghost Riders book was covering up? Oh, you're talking about on my bookshelf? Okay, hold on. On my bookshelf here, I have my Sin Cities. The first one's really small because I got it in a DVD, and then I have Bone. I have a lot of other comics, but they're like down there. But I'll give you guys a tour of my bookshelf in another day. Also, I don't have enough room for all my books right now, so a bunch of them are in boxes. It's kind of really sad. Allison, you were gonna say something before I really.
Oh yeah, well now it's been like built up, and it's not that big a deal. But I was just gonna think, does anyone else think it's kind of weird how big a villain Arcade has become in the last few years? Like, he's the villain of this book. He was in Avengers Undercover, and before that, he was in Avengers Arena. After like that, appearing in Avengers Academy, and it's just like, why?
Was he also in Marvel Knight Spider-Man, the one that Marco Rudy did? I think that was also Arcade.
Probably. I haven't read that personally.
Oh my
but
god,
it's possible.
so good! You guys have to read this book. Marco Rudy's art is like phenomenal. And it's one of those things that like only really works in issues because those 2-page spreads are so good. All right, guys. Sorry, I geek out all the time.
I'll look that one up. But yeah, it's like, why do we think this villain, who was like before now, he's sort of hammy, like he's a weirdly hammy villain. And it's, had only ever been in these like one-off little weirdo issues. But then now he's like. That's like 3 in a row where he's been like a major villain player, despite being a guy who sets up these like ridiculous, elaborate traps for people. So, when he's kind of one note that way, why do we think that he's all of a sudden like popular and a hot item?
I think it's a case of like running out. Whereas like Marvel and DC, they like to use people, like characters that are already canonized and that are already recognizable and that people can go like, oh yeah, I remember that guy from that one issue, or like, oh, he had a great run in this. So the ones that they've been using, they want to use more of. The ones that aren't doing, like they haven't used in years, or the ones that are newer, they don't want to use because then they're not recognizable. So I feel like Arcade got bumped up in villain status because he was there. And because, like all the other villains were in other issues, no
one was playing with him. He was the only toy left in the box.
Do we think it's like an interest in this kind of like Hunger Games style thing though? Like, because that's what everyone was comparing. What was it called? Avengers Arena. Everyone was comparing to Hunger Games, and his character really kind of lends itself to that. Like, it's character versus environment, which is interesting because it kind of takes away some of that like interpersonal drama, and I'm interested to see how they're going to bring that in here. But like, it's all these characters that are really racing against each other, but only so that they're racing against not getting tortured in his weird torture chamber. So it's kind of interesting that it's that we're so into this villain who essentially like makes characters fight their environment, which is like in a way can be a lot less dramatic than like something where there's more stakes, Like, it's just we have to get out of this trap he made, rather than, some kind of more interactive villain situation. It's interesting.
In the comments, Keith brings up how Arcade is a big deal because he gets to kill characters.
Did he kill anyone before that Avengers Arena book, though?
I don't know. And I'm not super familiar with all the Marvel stuff. In Marvel Knight Spider-Man, he didn't kill anybody, but he basically had Spider-Man in this, like, ongoing acid trip where, like, he would fall out of one hallucination into another, and, like, in the 6-issue miniseries, he goes and fights all of his nemesis before he realizes this is all, like, sort of like an illusion that Arcade has set up. And I thought that was really interesting, and it uses Arcade's, like, powers or his, like, his chief motive, or his shtick, in a really interesting way, and also having Marco Rudy's art, which is just, like, phenomenal and mind-blowing, and also what you would not normally see on a Spider-Man book, really fit that storyline. Hey, Keith, which characters did they kill? Uncle Ben's the only person that ever really dies, is what Lucian Zay Fox says.
True.
And Metal will come back, which I guess is the one that died in Avengers Arena.
Yeah, he died in, like, the early ones. But yeah, because I'm thinking back to, like, older Arcade stuff, and I don't think he was killing people before that book. I think he just started to because they wanted that Hunger Games Battle Royale style storyline, which I didn't read because they killed off Metal in the first issue, and I was like, I'm not about this book.
This is not for me.
That's fine. Yeah, no, I don't know. I was like, do I want to watch a bunch of characters I love killing each other? Not really. I know a lot of people really liked it, and that's their prerogative, but yeah, it wasn't really for me, so I don't know, but it's just, I don't know, it's just a weird thing to me that he's suddenly everywhere, and I'm like, this guy? But it works, like, I can't think of a different villain that would be more effective in this role, but, like, I guess you could have anyone at this point, because we haven't seen that much of him, but, it was one of those things where, like, I didn't know who the villain was going to be, but it was, like, a red-haired guy, and I was like, it's got to be Arcade, like, that makes sense. So it's interesting that we've had a number of stories recently that have wanted to utilize that kind of villain. It's just interesting. But he works here.
They could pull that twist that some like of the bigger names like to do, where it looks like it's Arcade, but then he pulls off the mask and it's like Voltron or something.
Yeah, some like really unexpected weird villain.
Yeah, twist.
Or he's actually just been, like, on villain assignments from, like, Doctor Doom, and Doctor Doom's, like, pulling all the strings or something.
Okay, yeah, that could be.
You guys know more about Secret Wars than I do, where on Battle Worlds there are statues of Doctor Doom, because I actually have no idea why they're on Battle World, other than, wouldn't it be cool if they raced against each other to the death?
Well, in the beginning of this Ghost Racers issue, it talks about how Doctor Doom is the ruler of Battleworld, and how when all these like pocket universes sort of like appeared on this world, Doctor Doom was the one that's like pulling it all together, and he's the one that's in charge, and he's like the god overmaster. Like, that's why people like swear and they're like, God Doom! Because like he's sort of like their deity, their figurehead.
Yeah, it's like a massive AU right now, like a massive universe at the moment.
It's basically a fanfic. This is what I'm reading.
Yeah, well, and I'm actually kind of like, the Secret Wars itself, I hear the book's actually pretty good, like the main Secret Wars book. I'm not reading it. But I'm actually really interested to see where it goes from here, because it is going to give them the chance to pick and choose from all those different universes and put them all together. So, like, finally, we don't need an excuse to put, like, Spider-Gwen and Miles Morales and Peter Parker and Silk and whoever else in the same book, and we don't have to come up with this, like, you know, Spider-Verse event. It's just like, no, they're all in the same universe now, and we can just roll with that.
It's literally just
and
a
they
bunch
can
of
undo
books
deaths.
Wouldn't it be cool if?
Yeah, but then some of those will be permanent. So characters that we really like that weren't like necessarily all in the same place, or characters who died who can be resurrected and they don't have to come up with some scheme as to why it happened. They can just be like, okay, Battle World, and now everything's like this.
Right.
So I think that it gives them the chance to actually shake things up. Like, that's my big problem with a lot of event stuff for Marvel and DC, is just like, nothing actually changes. Like,
Yeah.
it's just sort of like it builds and then it resets. Like Age of Ultron is like, what?
Yeah.
So I think this is interesting because it gives them the opportunity to actually make changes, and that at the end of this, like, things will actually look different than it did before.
But
and I think
will
that well, that's the thing. Like, we won't know, but like, it gives them the opportunity to make things different. So
They
we'll see
could.
we'll see how it goes. But I'm like not gonna get pessimistic just yet because it sounds like the intention here is to actually change things. And maybe it won't, and maybe it'll be like 3 characters, but who knows? Like, it could end up being useful, and maybe certain retcons that have to do with the Maximoff twins and their heritage could be just undone and could go back to ways that they used to be that were better.
I'm just going to bring up some comments while we continue talking. Yeah. I don't know. I thought this book was good, but it's also tough because some of us don't care, as Allison says, and also some of us, because of the Canadian exchange rate, the Canadian dollar is really low right now, and it cost me 25% more for each issue, and it's like getting to that point where it's like I can't afford to get things in issues if it's gonna be like, $5 cheaper to just wait and get the trades, because for a while it was like, oh, they're sort of on par and you can get it earlier, but I end up like this is my to read thing, which is like jam packed because I end up waiting. And it's like, if that's the case, I will save like $7 if I just buy the trade, and then I have like a nice bookshelf edition. And it's just sort of annoying because we want to buy issues to support the series, but the issues are expensive, and then it's like, oh, it's a cycle, man. It's just a cycle.
Well,
you guys know what I'm saying, though, right?
Absolutely, no. I am still of that mindset where it's like I am not able to afford like emptying my pull list and buying single issues all the time. I've kind of fallen into following stuff issue by issue just by having a pull list, and like I started with actually Ghost Rider, following it issue by issue to support the book, like Ghost Rider and Miss Marvel, and it's kind of just like it just kind of kept going, and so like once every now that I'm not at that former store where Alice used to work, I can afford to like go every couple months to my new local comic store and just empty out my pull box when I can afford it. But it's like it's an unfortunate system that we get wrapped up in. We're like, yeah, I can't afford these books all the time, but that's kind of the only best way to support a certain book, especially a book that you're not sure is gonna do well or not.
Yeah,
I use Comixology.
Nice.
And the Dark Horse digital store, because they're not on Comixology. It's a terrible platform, to be honest. Like, the readability is not the best. But what they do, a lot of the series, like not Marvel, but Image and a couple of the other ones will make, you can download like PDFs or CBRs, whatever you can read. So I'll buy the book and then I'll just download these extra copies and that kind of thing. So then you actually are just paying like $2.99 or $3.99 or whatever the American price is. You don't actually have to go anywhere to get it. And it's all there, which is great. And so, like, I need them regularly because I'm still, I'm reviewing comics, I'm writing about comics, I'm writing about comics events on a favorite website. So, like, I need to be able to read them every week. And luckily, I do get some review copies. But because of that situation, I do need to be sort of keeping up with things. But yeah, I don't know. It's actually I want to have a pull list in a place where I can actually go, and I want the experience of the store. But just because of you work all day and you go home, it's just when do you find time? So it's a lot easier, I find, if I have them on the computer, and then also I can read them on my lunch break at work.
Yeah, my problem is I have this beautiful Kindle Fire HD, and it's a color tablet e-reader, and I bought it specifically so I could read comics on it, but Amazon doesn't have a lot of support for apps, so they don't even have the Marvel Digital Comics app, which is crazy, and it's like I get free digital copies with every issue I buy, like this one's got like a free digital in it right there, and I can't get it on my e-reader. Amazon, it's just like, ugh. And then the other thing is that each publisher Dark Horse, Marvel, DC, Image, they all have their own digital comic subscription service. Some of them have their own apps. So there's not a universal thing, and that's like a problem.
Well, most of them are on Comixology. I think Dark Horse is the only one that I regularly have to go somewhere else to get. Everyone else is on. I can get everything else on Comixology.
To be fair, Comixology will have sales every once in a while where it's oh, get all of this series for $1.99. Separate question: would either of you be interested in the entire digital run of the old Ghost Rider comics?
Yes.
I have that on my hard drive and I can give that to you.
Done.
Okay.
Yeah, and so the other thing I'm doing right now is I'll follow a series up to the first arc. So I've told my local comic shop that after Spider-Gwen and Squirrel Girl get to the end of their first arc that I gotta stop. And I'll buy the rest in trades, but this is as much as I can afford. And it's just, with the Canadian exchange rate, it's just I spend so much more on comics, and it's the same amount of comics, and I'm getting 25% less, guys. It's
Well, to be fair, I think Squirrel Girl is a comic that doesn't need to be supported issue by issue. I think it's gonna do well on its own.
It's not. People are
really,
people love it, but Marvel's still iffy on it. So
really? I guess just because I see it online everywhere, that I assume that it's doing well, but I guess that's not the case.
I mean, it might be doing well, but from what I hear from comics retailers, it is selling, but because also I think it's because they have issue arcs rather than longer arcs. It's a tougher sell, and also because it's a female superhero.
I'll take your word.
But hey, I don't think Diana's coming back, and this is a particularly long book club episode, so we should probably wrap up.
Okie dokie.
I got a lot more comments, so I'm just gonna put them up. But while I do that, Allison, why don't you tell us about your work and stuff?
I'll turn on
besides being pretty.
That's what I do. That's my work. Yeah, so this is my Twitter handle here. You can follow me if you want more of my thoughts about comics and other nerd stuff. I write for a few different websites. Folks from Toronto might know Geek Prawn. I also write for Paper Droids, which is also kind of based in Toronto, and one called Pop Culture-y that's based in Australia. And I mostly write about comics, but sometimes I write about other stuff too. And I'm also the editor of Toronto-based superhero comic, The Pitiful Human Lizard by Jason Liu. We will be at Montreal Comic Con with a new mini-comic if anyone is coming to that. But yeah, pretty much that's me.
Cool.
Megan.
Hold
Megan,
on.
Before, all right.
We just got some comments. Yeah, Keith says it's an opportunity for fanfics. Have you guys not seen comics? IDW published a comic that was a crossover between Ghostbusters and TMNT. Comics is where all fanfictions are reality. Just saying. Yeah, we're all talking about the cost. Sucks. And then, yeah.
Walking Dead, Saga, Lazarus, all good choices. I don't follow Walking Dead myself, but Saga and Lazarus are both fantastic. When's Lazarus coming back? That's been out for a while, now that I think about it. Maybe it hasn't, but I feel like it's been a long time since I've read it.
I follow that one in trades, so I can help you with that.
I don't know. It's a good one, though.
It is. I really like it. Megan, tell us about yourself.
I am Megan. I am a freelance comic artist, and I'm also a webcomic creator. I did a series called Takeoff, and I'm working on a new series called Godslave, which you can find at godslavecomic.com. It's about a girl thrown into the drama and danger of Egyptian mythology in the modern day. So that's at godslavecomic.com. You can also find me on Twitter at mega_Carter, and also on Tumblr at gamma-girl.
Sweet! Diana had to leave early, but Diana is Words of Diana on Twitter. She does the Text from Superheroes website and those funny images. when I found that out, and I was like, Diana, you do that? I was freaking out because it's amazing.
She also writes for a number of sites. She does freelance writing. One of the biggest is Cracked.com. She's very funny. You should look her up. Words of Diana. Yeah.
Do we know her
Plugging that other
full
word.
name? Any of us?
Diana McCullum.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, shout outs to her. She had a previous engagement, so she couldn't stay the whole time. And as always, I'm Alice Quinn. You can find me as the Alice Quinn on Tumblr, on Twitter, on Facebook, and this is my YouTube channel, Quintessential Comics, or just QCX Show if you guys can't follow all my crazy spelling habits.
If you don't like vowels.
No, I added 2 N's in Quintessential Comics and spelled comics with an X. So, search engines love me, pretty much, is what I'm saying.
I found out when I got the URL for, when I originally came up with the title Godslave, when Hiveworks took me on and they wanted to do a URL for the comic and they were Googling Godslave, they were like, so have you Googled the word Godslave? I was like, no. And they go, it's a lot of porn coming up, actually. And I was like, oh, well, and that's on them to work on search engine optimization, not me now.
Boom, in your court. Yeah, so this is our book club. We do it once a month. We do 1 graphic novel and 1 new issue. If you go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/QCX show, we have our upcoming book club. Right now, there isn't book club picks because I want people to recommend what they're interested in reading. So there's a poll on that page right now, and I'm actually going to post the link in our comments for our next book club session. And then the date's already set, though. I can't remember right now, but check it out. And then you guys could join in our next book club. I'm always looking for people to join us in the comments and also in the video. And if you just contact me before, we'll just do a test video, and then we can set it up and have tons of fun. Because this one's been tons of fun. I've had so much fun with you guys. Thank you so much.
We're great.
Thank you for having us.
This has been
We are good.
Just so rad.
So charming.
You know, sometimes I don't feel like I can, like, really let loose and give all those harsh opinions that are really bubbling underneath the surface, but you guys totally got that out of me.
No, I was afraid, actually, too, because I've only been following since, like, your last 2 book shows, and so when I read Toon, I was like, am I allowed to, like, give that criticism? Usually she's very positive, actually. But I didn't care.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, I really hope that creator Derek Kirkham doesn't watch this. I don't think he will.
I'm sure he's a good person.
I'm sure he's a good person, too. I don't want him to be, like, personally offended by the fact that we had some critiques.
Well, he's a writer. You're putting yourself out there.
By the second volume, we came around. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're going to review books, you got to say bad stuff. And if he's going to put a book out there, you got to get used to people disagreeing with what you write.
Yeah.
Don't ever say anything bad about what I write, though, guys. Don't ever.
Never.
Ever.
Yeah, so I'm actually gonna, like, even though I wasn't, like, super fond of everything, like, there's definitely things I really enjoyed about Toon, and I enjoyed it enough that I will check out that second volume. And, maybe that'll turn it all around for me, and I'll just, like, be totally in love with it.
I recommend it. I genuinely do.
And you know what?
If you're heart up in the wallet, check the webcomic.
Also the library. Hurrah!
Oh, yeah, true enough. My library card expired.
Oh.
You just gotta go with your like, what's it called? Your driver's license or anything that has proof of address. You just go to your nearest branch and you just show it to them, and they'll unexpire. They just at the Toronto Public Library, they expire your card every year because they want to make sure you're still a resident of Toronto.
Don't you also have to pay like $10?
No, it's free to renew your card.
Oh, pardon me. Okay.
This has been Library Education Hour with Alice Quinn.
Guys, I love the library and I know so much about it. So yeah, if you have any library questions, just let me know. I'm gonna stop this broadcast because we've gone so off topic. and we're just
All right.
having fun. But you guys can stick around and we can continue video chatting with each other because.
I'm gonna eat some
Why
sushi.
not?
That's what I'm gonna do.
Oh yeah! So once again, this
My
has
sister
been.
brought this.
This has been Quintessential Comics. I'm Alice Quinn. Join us next month on the book club. All the information on Facebook. All right. Take care, guys.
Yeah, bye.
Bye. Thank you.